Hello teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. Pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being here. It's been a few days since my last update and Jesus, a lot has happened since. My God, Foodie, give us a break. She's been online a lot more hours this week because she's not spending time with Nada. And so it's been harder to cut things down, and this week has been particularly, busy at work because I've got a week and a half of school days left. Week and a half! Oh my God. So next week is a long weekend, so it's shorter, and then we have another week. I'm probably after this going to film a personal update over on the Milk Tea Chill channel. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave it for there. Okay? So let's stay with Chantal here. Because there were so many lives and I'm so disinterested in the old mate stuff at the moment, I really am. I know a lot of it came from there. We're going to talk briefly about the car age and just her general state at the moment, and a little bit about the money, which is something, her finances. I know it's none of my business, but I'm nosy and it's interesting. I am finding them very interesting at the moment, for better or for worse. And yes, I said worst, not worse, because... So let's start with the car age. I know there's been a lot of talk back and forth pre-car age about her and her being done with Nada and all the usual stuff, which is why I didn't bother cutting stuff down for this, because it was so much stuff and a lot of it is so repetitive. But Nada went online. Nada's been losing his shit really recently. But Nada went online and showed an account, a fake account she was using to contact him while they were under the no contact order. And someone called her by that name in chat and she lost her shit. I realize this isn't particularly new tea at the moment, but you're probably familiar with it. Pretty stupid thing to do. She could have just ignored it, or she could have just said, yeah, it's one of my fake accounts, Chantal Marie, and she could have left it there. What made this interesting was her rage. We all know she's got fake accounts. She's been proven before, the Marie Pondu account. We know she's had fake accounts contacting Nada, we know that. And it wouldn't have been a big deal at all until she made it a big deal, which really leads me to a bigger question of what exactly has Nada got on her? Because the big things like, there was a conversation about revenge porn a little while ago where he had filmed it. Remember, we were still on the red flag conversation with him, and he had filmed her without her initial knowledge, and she was like, what? And so we've had that conversation, and she's just said, well, I hope you release it because I'll get you arrested. That was the last conversation we had about it. So it's not going to be something like that. It's not going to be, oh, he's got this filmed, he's got whatever. So the Dee lawyer conversation, the fact that Dee thinks she's got a case and she's been contacting a lawyer that specializes in social media, and apparently, according to Dee, the lawyer thinks she's got a case. Also is a conversation we've had much more explicitly. She's been angry about it, but she said she's been angry about that. So what's causing this particular rage, I think, is something else, because she was very interested to know which conversation did you see? So clearly at some point in that set of conversations, there is something more damaging to Chantal, and I'm not sure what that could be. If theoretically she wasn't under the restrictions he was in terms of contact, it shouldn't matter that she was contacting him. So clearly there is something quite damaging for her personally, whether it's something she said about her online audience, but then what does she not say to their faces, to be completely honest? But something in there is problematic to a point that she is worried about it, because she wouldn't be this angry unless it was hitting a nerve. And I don't know which particular nerve it's hitting, but it caused that reaction. It just poked. And I know she's quite easy to trigger, but it seemed pretty specific. She seemed to want to know exactly what was said. And she can't go and check herself because she's got him blocked, or at least is something blocked at the moment, possibly. It's a bit weird where she says she blocked him, and she said recently that she unblocked him to yell at him and then blocked him again. He showed I can't remember the name of the fake account, Catherine someone, I think. And it looked like he had blocked her. So the reason that he is theoretically still blocked might be because she doesn't actually have a choice in the matter. But then there was also talk about her sending him $500 the other day, which will be part of the finance conversation. So they're obviously unblocked somewhere to have that conversation for her to send the money. But I don't know exactly what's going on there. But given that she has quite infamously got no shame, I don't understand what could be so bad for her. Like, she's already pretty far down. How much further has she got to fall, you know? But she laughs a lot at Dee Dee's lawsuit. She's like, oh, you don't even have money to hire a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. I think she should be a little bit more concerned if Dee Dee chose to go forward with it. Now, whether she will or not, I can't pretend to know Dee Dee's mind because, oof, who can? But Dee Dee has stayed in the background. She obviously enjoys triggering Chantal. She's quite the troll. But in terms of things that wouldn't look right in court, there's a much bigger case against Chantal than there is against Dee Dee. Her turning up in the middle of the night to sit outside and see if they take an Uber to somewhere. Her showing up in the middle of their meal. Remember when she went and got paneer? Because she's watching online that he's making it and showing up at their house expecting to be invited in. And a lot of that's going to look quite bad in court if it made it there, you know? In terms of her being super angry and saying, what, you're such an effing idiot, I can just go back to the police. You can't really, you've pissed in that pool already. Like, you've come in and you've completely destroyed your own credibility to get him off the last charges. So even if you went in and made a statement, how seriously could the police afford to take it in terms of moving forward? Because you've already done this once and you've already put in place the means for you to be discredited should you ever choose to move forward with this in the future. So to an extent, could you offering proof that you were in contact cause him damage? Potentially. But if they start looking at you as a reporting person, that's going to be very difficult to do anything with. Like, was the conversation her asking for drugs? So she's worried because that looks illegal? Well, that is illegal, but that looks bad on her. Could it cause her more trouble than it causes him? I think in a lot of cases, probably yes. Because the option she had to go to the police and do this through the legal system, she has now destroyed. There isn't much of a way she can do that to her advantage. And she can't leave them alone, is another big problem. So I was reading the last line of the top of my notes there. But when she says she unblocked them to yell at them and then block them again, she also can't shut up online about him. So again, in terms of what she's doing versus what they're doing, don't get me wrong, Nada seems to have lost his mind and been online for like 15 hours the other day. He doesn't look like a good person, but the court isn't there to decide whether he's a good person. It's there to decide if he broke the law. So if she's going to pursue him like that, being a shitty person isn't enough to get him to jail, you know? More and more over this past week, we have been talking about money though, and money interests me a bit more because one, it's new, and two, she's been giving more details. She did recently say, she was talking a little bit about what she earned. She said she earned $20,000 a couple of months there, but it's not normal for her. Usually it's less. But at one point she did put a figure of $15,000 onto this month. She seemed to second think it and then say it anyway. So personally, if I was being investigated for tax, if I was potentially in danger of being investigated for tax, I wouldn't be online saying what I earned, but I suppose if she gets investigated, it's too late for her anyway. She says she's not broke, she's just bad with money. Yeah, but if we look at what's going on here, she's mentioned that she spoke to her family and her family are giving her financial help. Now, she tried to leave this open as no help organizing my finances rather than giving her money, and I wish that were true. I wish that were the only thing they were doing. And frankly, given how much they hate Nada and given that she's not been particularly kind to her family recently, that she's been very much the rebelling teenager in terms of not being in contact with them because of the fact that she's with him and it causing a lot of strain in that regard, or being in contact and again it being strained. Frankly, the financial organization would be more than they owed her quite reasonably. So it's nice that they're doing it, but she said organization 2, which to me says they've given her money. Someone somewhere has given her money, which on a 15 grand paycheck is absolutely insane to me. Just utterly nuts. And more to the fact that from her family's perspective, I get that, like, if it's the mom, she's their daughter, she's their sister, she's whoever. But you make 15 grand a month and that's a regular occurrence. Yeah, 15 is reasonably something we can say she makes most months. Yeah? So if she makes that amount of money or somewhere close to it, certainly in the double digits for the thousands, and you're asking for money while simultaneously admitting that you sent him $500 recently, sitting on live, although she's doing this less the last few days, but she was sitting there eating McDonald's, which is food she doesn't need to pay for. Yeah, admitting that she still hasn't cancelled the HelloFresh. For the $80 a week that HelloFresh costs, she could get groceries and she could cook and it would go further. And she doesn't. And she's been wasting that $80 a week for what, a year? How long has she been on HelloFresh now? It's a long time. It's a lot of money. And you have the audacity with, not necessarily with what you're spending, although that's also very wasteful, but the amount of money she just wastes. She throws down the drain. She gives to this guy that her family hates. You have the audacity to go and ask for money? Are you crazy? But that also shows that she must be near her limit on her credit card, because if she had the option of putting it on credit versus asking her family, she would have done it, I think. I think she doesn't have the wriggle room in her credit limit to be able to cover herself. And so her family is probably her last choice. And Pete doesn't have money. So there we go. And yet her latest live stream was like, I bought those mussels. So she's either giving him the money or giving him the groceries. She's also come up with some money-making gold mines of farting on camera for money, which I will not be subscribing to that shorts channel. I will not be doing it. But she started a shorts channel, which is just going to languish and die the same way the Beezer show did, the same way her other channels have. It would be a good idea for her to maintain 2 channels. It would. She could get a lot more income. But the key word is maintain. She's had other platforms that she hasn't maintained. She's had other channels previously in her YouTube career that she hasn't maintained. If you're not going to maintain them, it is pointless. So she keeps basing these ideas on being a completely different person than she actually has shown evidence for. Oh, I'm going to do all this and be a boss bitch and be a professional YouTuber and manage all these things and turn it into a real, actual professional business. And then she doesn't and wonders why it's not working. But she has still been cooking at home. I think she is proper broke at the moment. Guys, she would not be cooking at home. She would not be telling us as much as she is. It would not be slipping into the conversation as much as it does, unless it was actually getting quite intrusive in her mind. And I think if Nada weren't in the picture, although if Nada weren't in the picture, she'd probably be financially better off in some ways. Like, she'd be in less urgent trouble. She'd still have no taxes paid, which is a whole issue. But she needs money because of his direct impact in her life. That's where all her money's gone. Excuse me, still coughing a little bit. I know, it's been weeks. But what was the point I was making with that now? The money wouldn't be such a pressing issue if he weren't in the picture. You know, I can't remember the other point I was making with that, so we're just gonna move on. But yet, if you look at some of her financial decisions, like I said, something simple like you claim you borrowed money from your parents and then you're sitting eating McDonald's, which is quite the choice, because that's what I'd be looking at. There's a reason I try not to lend money to people. And like, not that I won't give money to people if I feel they need it, but I give money when I'm comfortable with the idea of I might not get this back. Because if I want it back, I'm thinking about it. So I don't want to be the person judging you on what you're buying, but I think her family could do with judging her a little more on this. and saying, you've got $80 a week tied up in this HelloFresh. Why are you asking me for money when you could get $80 a week that way? Why are you doing X, Y, Z? Part of managing your money is managing your choices in that way. She needs to seriously do a full out spending tracker and see exactly where it all goes and exactly the numbers it goes in. She would need to be a much more consistent person to do that, which is again the problem. She bases the plans on things that she'll never bring herself to do. She makes plans based on a personality she'll never have, but at some point you have to take the step. And she's been talking a lot about taking the steps, partly as not an apology to her viewers, because she's been going off at her viewers again, but partly as a, look, I'm giving you what you want kind of thing, to sort of mitigate the damage she's been doing her audience relationship recently, but then forgetting and just getting angry and being like, I'm blocking all you fuckers. But partly because she can't afford not to. I would be really interested to see what her bank balance is right now. I'd be really interested to see. Because if she's cooking at home and it's only, the 10th of June? She's got a while to last. And even that being the case, even in this, the moment of crisis, she's talking about spending $500 ordering crochet hats of food to wear on her head on stream because the 5 hats she's got are not enough. Are you kidding? You will sit there with your housemate and you will say, hey, how about we declare you incapable and I get money for caring for you, but let's spend $500 on crocheted hats. I don't know about you, I consider crochet hats a luxury in the budget. And I want to know what's happening with the tax audit. She claimed, she's going to her family for financial organization, but she's got an accountant. She could go to a financial advisor, but I think the financial advisor would just be like, man, burn it to the ground and run. At this point. But there are financial advisors out there. There are people that can help her that she ignores, because if she gets help, she has to look at it. And if she looks at it, everything gets too real. And I'm sure that's why. It's just ostrich syndrome. It's burying her head in the sand because that's all she feels she can do. But last time we heard about the accountant was like, the CRA wants me to tell you to file your taxes. She's already 2 years behind, which doubles all her fees and late I was going to say additions. I can't quite remember but her fines, all of them get doubled when you get into the second year, and she was already in bad condition. And now that she's got so much money outgoing, she seriously does not have the money to just throw a few thousand at it extra every month like she was planning on doing to make it all up. If they come calling, she does not have any options. So it's an interesting time. I'm sure I've missed a lot. If you were here for the Nada Chantal drama, sorry, I'm just finding it exhausting. Oh, one thing I didn't mention about it though. There was a point, speaking of Didi and her motivations and me not really understanding her, I'd be interested how close she is to being nah. Because there was a point when Nada was online and he appeared to shove her or push her or hit her or something. And I've seen clips of this on Twitter because I don't watch him ever if I can help it, but firsthand certainly not. And then she came online and was like, oh, no, guys, I'm fine. But it was a sus moment. And there's always been this resentment from Chantal where, well, look, he does this with me and he doesn't do this with her, and I don't know why. And that seemed to be evidence that he either is or is starting to do that with her. And I'd be interested to see if this is all a troll and her kind of poking, and she's supposedly smarter. I mean, I think she's smarter than Chantal, but I think it's a low bar. I'd be interested to see how that turns out. Whether, because Didi does, she has her own place, she invited Nada there, but would this be a case of she would make Nada leave? How would it progress with her? Would it be different? Would she just stand by him? It's an interesting but horrible thought. And I wonder if Didi's just there for the mega lols, is it worth dealing with Nada when he turns on her to be able to poke at Chantal? I don't know. I don't really understand her motivations, but it's an interesting question if that tide is now turning. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you there and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.